Have you ever seen a channel blow up overnight and thought, what are they doing that I'm not? Well, when this happens, it's often for the same reason. So today I'm going to show you what that reason is. I'm going to show you how I've used this strategy with businesses to help them go from 25,000 to 300,000 subscribers in a year, and another one go from 0 to 200,000 subscribers in 12 months. And at the end, I'm going to show you how to take what you've learned and apply it to your own business too. So let's start with the big problem that you have to solve to get this strategy to work for you. So most businesses find YouTube hard because they try to copy other people, and that's almost a guaranteed fail now because of the way that YouTube itself works. You see, YouTube needs to generate ad revenue by getting people to watch videos, and that's what keeps their business running. That means the algorithm has to be very careful about what it promotes, because if a video pushes viewers away, YouTube's going to lose some money. So to protect its business, it stops showing videos that don't perform and then doubles down on pushing the ones that do. That means YouTube's scoring you against every video your audience might watch to work out if they give you impressions or if they give them to someone else. And there are only two ways to win that game. Option one is to compete head to head. To do this, you make the same kind of videos everyone else makes, hoping to outscore them so you get all their impressions. But for that to work, you need a deep understanding of your avatar. You need great storytelling, strong frameworks, perfect pacing and editing, solid research and planning. You need design skills, psychology skills, or you just need to get lucky, but luck is just not a strategy that is repeatable, so you will ultimately fail. Option two, you just use a strategy that removes the competition and makes you a niche of one, which is how all of those businesses I showed you at the start blew up. And you do that by finding a gap. A gap is where there's massive demand, but very little supply. It's basically a space where viewers are hungry for something and no one's delivering it that well. When you can create that situation, you can get more impressions because you compete against no one else. So the strategy the fastest growing businesses on YouTube use is filling a gap. But how do you find a gap? Well, you need to understand the 8 types that exist and then how to harness them. So I'm going to break them all down for you next, and then after I'll give you the formula to get them to work for you. All right, so the first gap style, this is the most common and the one that most people think is the only kind of gap that exists, but it's not. So here's how it works. So I've spoken about Meadow before on the channel, and her story's fantastic. She used to make broad self-help content, and like most people in a niche, she started out trying to solve multiple problems on her channel, from confidence to self-worth. But you can't grow a channel jumping between so many different problems like this. So realizing this, she asked, what's the one problem my clients know they have? And it suddenly clicked. The answer was narcissistic relationships. So instead of being another generic self-help channel, she became the channel that helps you heal from narcissists. And because she was great at making videos, she didn't just fill a gap, she then dominated it. So this is known as a topic gap. Now, a topic gap happens when certain subjects in a niche are in demand, but they're not covered or are very poorly covered. And there's a lot out there, even though they're hard to find. Now, the next type of gap took Shrey here from less than 500 subscribers to over 400,000 subscribers in 18 months, and his income is up 7x what he used to earn as a result. And this happened because during his research, he found a video that had millions of views. And he showed it to me and he said, do you think I should do something similar? And I had a mini breakdown of excitement. And I said, yes, make that, because I could see he found a gap. And his first video using this new system got millions of views. But why did that work? Well, for years, YouTube was dominated by younger viewers. But after COVID, older audiences flooded the platform. So people in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, maybe we had one in their hundreds, started spending hours a day on YouTube. Yet very few channels at the time are making content with them in mind. So when Shrey designed his video for that older demographic, things blew up. This is called an age gap, and there are still a ton of them out there right now. Now, our next type of gap took this channel from 0 to 200,000 subscribers in just 12 months. Now, at the time, the productivity space on YouTube was flooded with beginner content, things like how to use a Notion template or try time blocking. And this was kind of all surface level advice people had heard thousands of times before, unless they were total beginners to the topic. Then Rhea and Doris came in and made videos with deep, scientific pro-level insights with frameworks on how to become more productive, and he showed the kind of things his company had helped billionaires do. And as soon as his videos hit the platform, they started to get insane views because Ryan filled what I call a skill gap. The skill gap happens when an entire niche focuses on one ability level, usually beginners, and ignores everyone else. Meaning if you're the first to serve that higher or sometimes lower level, you can own that gap. Now, the next type of gap, most people are scared of, but it's very powerful. And it's what many of the biggest personal brands hijack. And all they do is attack a belief the market has accepted as true and show people a different way to think. So I call this a contrarian gap. Cody Sanchez, for example, came into entrepreneurship saying, don't do online, buy a boring business, which was the opposite to what was being said. And that got people's ears pricking up. So these gaps are very powerful because contrarian ideas do two things at once. They grab attention because they challenge what people think to be true. And they build authority because you seem like the only one who gets it. And then we have what I call meta gaps. So in 2024, Charlie Morgan's channel exploded with these rough, scrappy looking videos. And people kept messaging me saying, Ed, how's this guy doing this? Look how bad his thumbnails are. But here's why this happened. So every few years, the meta on YouTube, basically what viewers want, changes. In 2021 to 2023, the winning formula was fast-paced retention editing and high production. But at the start of 2024, Charlie's video style fell into the meta gap because whilst everyone else was still obsessing over the old way, he went a new way that people now actually craved and made videos with no fluff, no clickbait, almost no editing, and caught the new meta right at the start, which gave him a massive traction fast. What's cool about meta gaps is, I think we're due another shift in 2026, and with AI blowing up, it's almost a definite. So keep your eyes posted on the fastest growing channels doing things differently next year. They might be right in the new meta. Now, the next type of gap was executed beautifully by Chris Do from the future years ago. Now, back then there were already business channels like Valuetainment, but instead of going broad with general business advice to give everyone, Chris and his team made one smart decision and targeted creative professionals, specifically designers looking to grow their business. What that meant was, when I first found his channel and I had a creative business, I couldn't stop watching it. Chris felt like he was talking to every single unique problem I had. So I call what Chris did finding a positioning gap. It's what happens when every other channel is chasing the same broad audience with the same broad problem, and you decide to speak to one with more specific problems instead. Now, this next gap, it kind of sounds like a meta gap, but it's not about following a trend. It's about defying one. So back in 2021, I looked around the YouTube education space and thought, why does every single person just sit and talk to camera? Our audience was creatives, like filmmakers, storytellers, and yet no one was showing off creativity in their videos. So I started making these videos where I was telling lots of stories, I was layering in emotion, story arcs, cinematic visuals, and narrative, and that was on my old channel Film Booth. So whilst everyone was making education, I made what I called edutainment, and that shift made my videos stand out in the niche because the style was so different. Unknowingly, I'd caught onto the meta too. So this is what I call a style gap, and finding it helped me generate over 30, 40 million views now. Now, a style gap happens when you express the same ideas as everyone else in a way that just feels different. And this can work even if it goes against the current meta. So Noah Kagan did it with his millionaire interviews instead of just talking head videos. And this AI channel is doing an incredible job of making complex tech sink in with this like documentary style. So even though the meta right now is simplicity, you don't have to follow it. You can carve out a style gap too, so long as it's not cliche. And then our eighth gap is very simple, and it's what I call a credibility gap. So this is what blew up Nisha's channel, because everyone before her who was talking about the finance space was great on camera, people like Graham Stephan, but they didn't have a formal qualification in finance, right? Whereas Nisha, she came in with titles like Accountant Explains, and then very quickly made her qualifications clear in her introductions. And that started to set her apart, because before her, people who were interested in the topic talked about it. Now it felt like we had really experienced experts flying in. Credibility gaps are what people like Caleb here harnesses, because he's the guy with 17 years experience making content who helped Hormozy and Gary Vee blow up their personal brands. So when you hear that in a video, your ears prick up instantly and you're like, I'm going to get some game-changing advice from these, probably stuff that's not anywhere else. So if you are incredibly credible and everyone else in your niche is just talking because they're interested, it's a big gap to fill. Now, those are the 8 gaps. The question is, how do you find yourself one? Well, you don't find one, you create one. And the way you do that isn't by going after one gap, it's by attacking 3 at once. So let's use Nisha as an example. Nisha blew up because she hit 3 gaps. The first was the meta gap, where she was very early to the transition between high production and stripped back, easy to understand, simple videos. She also hit the skill gap because she took complex topics like finance and accounting, investing, and made them really easy for almost anyone to understand. And then she hit the credibility gap because she wasn't just another person talking about making money. She was a qualified expert with experience in the city. And if you don't really understand the current meta on YouTube, and you're still doing what you were 3 years ago, which a lot of people are, watch this video next and I'll show you how to harness the current meta of making videos that are so simple they are almost boring.